discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, this video is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering you a free audiobook with a 30-day free trial membership. All you need to do is go to audibletrial.com/BGUnlocked. The link is in the description below, and now enjoy the video. Hey everyone, welcome to the discussion for Scythe, the Automa variant, which is basically their solo variant. I have done a run through for Scythe a long time ago. A long time ago, and the discussion a long time ago. So if you really want to know what I think about Scythe, then one, check out my top 10 or top 100 from last year, and then also we talk about the Rise of Fenris expansion. I've done a no run through review for the Wind Gambit expansion, and then the discussion for Scythe back then. So there's a lot of other previous videos here. I am going to be talking about the Automa, my thoughts on the Automa variant only, and I will also be doing my thoughts on the modular board. But I'll talk about that very briefly. So, the Scythe Automa variant I actually think is pretty slick. Because, first of all, this was one of the very first solo game I ever played. Because I had heard so many great things about the solo variant, I was like, yeah, you know what, I'll give it a shot. And this was at least over a year ago, and I had to remember what it was like, so I played it again. And yeah, it's pretty good. Like, the way Scythe works as like a game is like it's not very combat heavy. The combat is very simple whenever you're deciding what you wanna play, or how much power you want to spend and stuff like that. So you're not bogged down against like an enemy that has an unlimited number of resources and things like that you're like, well, I can't even beat them. Here, like, with Scythe, yeah, the only weird thing about it is that they can kind of teleport, which normally would bug me, because it's like, really, I don't get to do that. But Scythe isn't really all about, area control. It's not really all about, like, oh, I gotta get there first. You can win and do well without ever having to, like, leave your area. Which was what I was trying to do. I was like, well, can I avoid combat with them? Can I avoid like any type of messing with them and see if I can win that way? And I was doing pretty good for the most part. So whenever it comes to them, they are all about kind of like, okay, we want to get to the factory and hold the factory. Then they kind of can branch out from there, because whenever the Automa moves, whether it's moving its workers or it's moving its mechs or characters, it kind of does it in such a way that it's like, okay, well, I'm going to teleport into any area adjacent to, where it's trying to move. Which is a pretty good way of doing it, because if it moved like a character moved, there'd be really no point in playing against an Automa, because you would never go to their side. Like I mentioned, Scythe is not a combat game, but it has combat in it, and in almost every game of Scythe I've played, which is a lot, you have to go out of your way to want to fight someone. Like, it's not like a game like Comet where like that's the objective, you're just constantly clashing. Here it's like, okay, I am going to go out of my way to move my character in to fight yours way over there. And so if that was the case here, then you would never touch them. They would always just kind of bunch up in their area, slowly and methodically moving to the factory, wherein you're just like, okay, I'll never touch them. So it kind of forces you to have some engagement with the Automa, because they do branch out so quick. So here it works. It's not. I don't think it's like a disadvantage where, oh wow, they just got to the factory before me. Well, it doesn't. Who cares? Okay, they're at the factory. It's not like they get the card ability or anything like that. They just, hey, this card's now gone. You don't get to pick it. But you still care about all that. Like, whenever you're playing against another player, yeah, getting to the factory might be a big deal, because now they have an ability that, oh, I pay a popularity to get a mech or a building. What? Like, that's busted. And now I get, like, a double move. Or if I have my speed mech, then now that's one single unit gets to move 3 times. What the hell? Yeah. So it doesn't get that. So them just branching straight to the factory just kind of forces you to engage with them. Like, it forces you to kind of think about, oh, if I want to go there and fight that person, like, it's like, oh man, I'm gonna have to lose popularity for that. So yeah, it's really, really neat. And one of my favorite things about the Scythe solo variant is the simplicity of it. One, you have a bunch of cards that tell you, okay, this is what this icon means. So now I don't really like that it's in cards. I wish it was just one player aid, but that's kind of a minor complaint. But it's pretty cool because you have this deck of cards that has two sides to it. And the first side, you use the number one side until it reaches a certain point in its difficulty track. And it's just, hey, you go top to bottom. Okay, this one here means it's going to move a worker. Oh, well, how does it move a worker? Oh, I'll just look at this, this quick, player aid, and it tells me exactly what I need to do. And so I'll just move it, and you can quickly kind of decide where it's going to go. At first, the learning curve of moving is kind of, there is a learning curve, but it's like, oh, okay, well, it's going to move the worker closest to its home base because it's trying to surround the factory, because it's a central area that everyone is probably going to be at least touching at some point. So it's going to move there, and it's like, oh, well, where is it going to move? Okay, well, let me check here. In a neighborhood of any Automa unit, or in a neighborhood of any Automa base. No enemy, and it has no enemy unit, and it has no Automa worker. So then you pick up that worker, and then you're like, oh, okay, it's going to go in a valid hex. There we go. And that's that. That's what its turn was. Then it gains its stuff, which is called, that's what it's called. It gets stuff. This particular card, it just gains 3 power. Which you might also be thinking, oh, like, what the hell? It gains 3 power? I'll never gain 3 power. Well, first of all, you have ways of gaining 3 power. You just have to upgrade. Yeah, it doesn't have to upgrade, but once again, I think the reason why it does the power scaling so much is because otherwise, this game, because there's no person managing the combat, so you don't have that back and forth of like, okay, so what would they realistically play, and what kind of combat cards do they have? You don't have that. So it's going off of a scaled down grid. So it's like, yeah, okay. If it'll only attack if it has more than whatever 6 power. It does, okay. Then it'll go try and attack. And then you can gain a lot of benefits. I sorely missed out on a lot of stuff because I didn't have any recruits, which actually I think is a pretty good thing that they include, because the recruit mechanic in Scythe is that, okay, I have this recruit, I get the one-time bonus. Now, anytime someone deploys a mech to my left or my right, I gain a coin in this case. And one, like, I hardly ever go for recruits, even though I should. If I had, I would have won, but I willingly chose not to do that. But against the Automa, there's a lot of ones in here that have recruits. And, like, well, yeah, pretty much. Oh, well, actually, I think it's an even balance. There's heart, coin, power, coin, card. Okay, so there's two of each. Okay. Felt like there was more. But then there's the other side. So then you might potentially get something for them doing on their turn. So at least it has that in it as well. It's not just like, wow, I don't get anything for anything it does. No, you might if you go the recruit route. And then there's the fact of how it levels up, and like how this game, one of the other benefits of is that it's quick. Like, I finished this game in under an hour, and that's the other thing. And I felt like I was able to do everything that I wanted to do. Granted, I willingly ended the game, and I was like, shit, I probably shouldn't have done that. Because it actually ended up costing me. What I wanted to do was get another building built, which would have given me 3 more coins, but I didn't do that. So I lost based off my own mistakes, not because the Automa is broken, and I don't think the Automa is broken at all. But then in the card, you look at the middle, and it's like, oh, is this a star? Okay, then it goes up on the track. That doesn't mean it places a star, otherwise it'd be stupid. But it levels up slowly. So then, now, by the end of the game, okay, well, you have this many times to place a star, and now they're going to start just placing stars. And it's just a way to shorten the game, and I like it. But about halfway through their difficulty, they flip it, and they go to their level 2 side, which is kind of, I feel like it's more combat heavy. Or at least more aggressive. So I don't know. I think that this card system is very, very, especially it was unique at the time of playing it, but I think it's still very solid. Like, I've played quite a few solo games now, and the ones that I think are really good tend to actually use like a deck mechanic instead. And I I just think that that's always a neat thing. And another cool thing about these is that if you're playing against a specific faction, like some of the cards might give them like abilities for it, depending on which faction they're playing. Like this one, it's like, oh, they're playing the red faction. Well, they'll get 2 mechs this time. It's pretty cool. I like it quite a bit. And then as a player, the cool thing is you don't really change how you play. In a lot of solo games that I've done, it's just like, okay, well, this is how you like, you can't do this or you can't do this. Like, you play your game just like you would against another player. You score points just like you would against another player. And typically, I kind of find Scythe as a 2-player game not that great, but it is essentially a 2-player game. But the way that the Automa spreads out and quickly moves engages you more than playing against another person, because like I said, you can almost turtle. Everyone can turtle unless they really want to go out of their way for combat. And in terms of like it getting, because it gets free coins. You can potentially get free coins. It doesn't get encounter cards, so you get that benefit. The other benefit you get is at the end of the game, they don't get coins for resources. It never gets resources, and it doesn't get points for building structures because it never builds structures. So you have endgame scoring advantages against them, which I think is a really good mechanic, because like they're going to be gaining coins quicker than you will in the game, but you have a way to catch up. Like it was extremely close, and I was playing against the extreme I was playing against the normal difficulty against it, and realized I made some mistakes on myself, and I kind of rushed my biggest mistake was I felt I rushed the game on accident without building like I intended to, but that's my own fault. I'm really trying to think of like other negatives for the Scythe expansion. I mean, I haven't done the Wind Gamut Automa rules. They changed some Automa cards, and then you have your Wind Gamut, which I'm glad that they have an Automa rule set for the expansions. And I think there's an Automa for Rise of Fenris, but I'm not 100% on that one. So combat I also think is pretty cool, because they'll be accumulating their cards, and whenever you fight them, you draw a card, and then it has like a table here, and it's like depending on where their power is at, then that's how much they will spend and how many cards they spend. And if you fight them, then you basically like if I fought a mech, granted they were in the lake, but if I fought their character over in like a food area and I won, like in this case it has 13, so it'd spend 7 and play 1 card, which would be a 3, so it'd have a 10 total. If I beat them, then you do gain stuff for winning. Besides that, like you would gain like 4 resources, and in my instance it was villagers, but like if it was in a food area, then 4 foods now placed there, because that's my victory for beating them. So I think that's really neat too, because a lot of times you would want to fight someone to gain the resources that are being hoarded there. So it's really neat. I think you can also throw the Automa in a multiplayer game, because like it just picks a faction and you just kind of put them there and they run their own thing. And I think that's a valid way of playing. I kind of like solo variants that can be thrown into multiplayer games, because it's sometimes hard to get a full group of games. It's especially hard for me to get, like, hell, even 4 people. 3 is a really good easy number for me, but 4 is kind of difficult. And then 5 or 6, I have to like plan around it. I have to make like an event to get a full game done. So if you have 3 people and you're like, oh, we kind of want a 4th, the Automa is not a terrible option. So very much like it. Now, as for the modular board, I think the modular board's pretty neat. Is it a must? Absolutely not. Like, the other expansions, the Invaders from Afar, Wind's Gambit, and Rise of Fenris, those are all, like, must-have expansions. Modular board it's pretty cool. Like, if you want that differentiation between the board, you're like, oh, this is kind of boring. Well, this will give you a different taste, because here I was able to be like, wow, I have everything around it, and oh crap, there's a lake over there, and I can't get to my food, or I can't get to my other metal. Huh. Okay, well, but I was still able to I felt like it was actually a lot quicker. I was able to get resources that I needed, but I happened to have an oil field, and I was able to move in there and then just upgrade a lot quicker, so that worked out. But I thought it was pretty neat on how different that the modular board felt. But also, it wasn't like in such a way, because you can't randomize it completely. You're still have some rules whenever you're placing these tiles, and that's really cool, because otherwise then you could just get hosed in the way certain tiles get laid out. But you're really only placing 4 random ones in 4 corners of the area that have different terrain. But I think that's really neat. It'd be really cool. Pretty much the biggest difference that I like about the modular board is the fact that your home base is not in the same spot. Like, hell, you could have even had the same exact board, but if you shuffled, the home bases around, that would change the game up. So you kind of have both. So I think that that's really cool. So, let's see. I really think that's it. Like, there's not a whole lot to talk about the Automa, except that it's quick, it's streamlined, and it's balanced. It's such a fun Automa to play against, like, because they're going to do things. Now, you're never going to be able to predict what they're going to do, because, I mean, you're not going to know what their cards are, but you can never truly predict what a player is going to do. You're just going to have to do the best with what you got. I don't know. I think that the Automa variant for Scythe is really, really good. So let's see. On a scale of 1 to 10, well, let me rate the modular board. I'd give the modular board an 8. An 8 out of 10 as an expansion. I think that it changes the game enough without making it like super weird and super like confusing. It's like, well, now what do I do? It's really just changing the board state, which I think was something about Scythe that I've always wanted, because it's like, well, if I play the white faction, the Anna and Volchek, I'm always going to be here on the left, but it's like, oh, well, now we shuffle these up, and now I'm down here on this side, so that's going to be different against my different neighbors. So I think it's pretty cool. So an 8 out of 10 for that. For the Automa, the solo variant for Scythe, I'm gonna give it. Man, I'm gonna give it a 9. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. It's hard for me to give a solo variant a 10 out of 10, because even though I very much like it, and this is a almost damn near perfect replacement for playing a full game of Scythe, they still never quite hit that for me. Because for me, solo games are like, okay, well, I'll just play a video game. Like, I'll just play a video game for the if I'm by myself. Board games are kind of difficult, because I want to play board games with my friends, and that kind of you are still missing that interaction of like, oh man, okay, so what are they gonna do? Like, the Automa is gonna be random because it's a deck of cards, but everything else mechanically I think is beautiful and fun. And one of the other things I really like is that even though they didn't have to worry about resources and stuff, what makes this really good is that they're not just getting to build buildings for free and also capitalize on that. Like, that you still have end game advantage over the fact that they do get to place their workers for free, they get mechs for free, while you still have to work for it. But with that being said, there was never a time where I was like, oh crap, I'm not gonna be able to do this. Like, I always felt like I got to do what I wanted to do without having to worry about what someone else might do. It's like, oh crap, they might fight me, I better get my power up. That's still a very real possibility here, but you can kind of read your real life opponents more. So it's like, well, this is my... So you kind of have to change your strategy based on what the others are doing. Here, I was like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to keep doing it, and it was working for me. I lost, but it was... I felt like it was working for me pretty well. So yeah, I'm going to give the Automa variant for Scythe a 9 out of 10. But that's it, everyone. Let me know what your thoughts are of the Automa in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thanks so much for watching this, and if you like this video, then click the subscribe button below to enjoy any video that I put out. And right next to that subscribe button is a little bell. Click that so you get notified of whenever I actually upload these videos. If you want to support the channel, you can definitely visit my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.